I'm setting you free. I undid the chain on her wrist, but she spun, slamming me back against the wall. Her lips, damp and warm, brushed against my throat as she bit open the top button of my shirt. You taught me, Ethan. A captured thing should know its place. She smiled, swinging a leg over to straddle my lap. There was nothing under her silk nightgown, and the cold metal of the chain she was holding pressed against the inside of my thigh. You're the one who put this on me. Are you trying to throw me away now? My eyes snapped open. My head felt like it was splitting in two. Strange ceiling, strange bed, and a strange woman next to me. Her back was to me, her pale shoulders bare above the sheets, marred by few angry red marks. I shot upright, the duvet sliding off to reveal I was completely naked. Fuck, I muttered, scanning the room. It was a luxury penthouse bedroom, all dark mahogany and heavy curtains that blocked out every trace of sunlight. On the nightstand sat a half-empty glass of whiskey and a pair of steel handcuffs. Memories flooded back, a tidal wave of someone else's life. My name is Ethan Crane. I'm 28, CEO of a public company. No, wait. These are my memories. I distinctly remember pulling an all-nighter, binge-reading some trashy, melodramatic web novel, and then, did I get sucked into the story? More accurately, I was now inside the novel, inhabiting the body of the villain who tortures the female lead. I turned my head to look at the sleeping woman, and my heart nearly stopped. Seraphina Vance, the book's protagonist. On the surface, a gentle soul. Underneath, a broken, beautiful manipulator bent on revenge. In the original story, my character, Ethan, imprisons her because he can't have her love. In the end, she masterfully turns the tables, and he dies a particularly gruesome death. I swallowed hard, carefully sliding out of bed. My legs felt so weak I almost crumpled to the floor. What the hell happened last night was brutally obvious. I fumbled into a robe I found on the floor, my mind racing. According to the plot, this should be the third day of Seraphina's imprisonment by me. Eve forced myself on her, then escalated the abuse until she finally broke and started plotting her revenge. Awake already, Ethan? A soft, feminine voice came from behind me. I froze solid, then slowly turned around. Seraphina was sitting up, the sheet clutched just high enough to cover her chest, her long dark hair a messy halo around her face. A faint, knowing smile played on her lips, but her eyes were as cold as ice. My throat was sandpaper. I had no idea what to say. She tilted her head, a gesture that might look cute on someone else. On her, it was terrifying. You were so passionate last night. Why so shy now? I took a deep breath, deciding to throw the novel's script out the window. Ms. Vance, I'm sorry about last night. You can go. The door's over there. I pointed, trying to keep my voice steady. Seraphina just stared, clearly not expecting this. She narrowed her eyes. What's that supposed to mean? Exactly what it sounds like. I walked to the closet, grabbed a random set of clothes, and tossed them to her. Get dressed and get out of here. As for last night, let's just pretend it never happened. She didn't move, just watched me, her gaze growing more dangerous by the second. Ethan, what do you take me for? Some call girl you can use and toss aside. That's not what I meant. I frowned. I just think, you shouldn't be locked up in here. Oh, she laughed, a sound that sent a chill down my spine. So, you keep me locked up for 3 days, and now you're just letting me go? What about this? She ripped the sheet away, revealing the shocking constellation of bruises and bite marks covering her body. My stomach clenched. The Ethan from the novel was a real monster. But that wasn't me. I had to end this. I'll compensate you, I said. Name your price. Seraphina's expression instantly turned venomous. She slid off the bed, walking toward me barefoot. She was a full head shorter than me, but her presence was so suffocating I could barely breathe. Money, she sneered. Ethan, do you think I need money? Why do you think I stayed here for 3 days? Why didn't I call the cops? Why didn't I run? I took a step back, my shoulders hitting the closet door. Then what do you want? She reached up and caressed my face, her fingernail lightly scraping my jaw. I want you, Ethan. Her voice was sweet as honey, but her eyes were terrifyingly insane. You think you can just screw me and throw me away? It's not that easy. A cold dread washed over me. This was wrong. All wrong. In the book, Seraphina despised the original Ethan. She would never. You like me? I asked, testing the waters. She let out a giggle that made my skin crawl. Like you? No, Ethan. I don't like you. She leaned in close, her breath warm on my neck. I'm obsessed with you. From the first day you locked me in here, I knew. with the same kind of broken. I shove her away. You're insane. Yeah, I am, she said with an unconcerned shrug. So what? You gonna kick me out? Let me tell the whole world the CEO of Crane Corporation is a rapist. She tilted her head. Or, I could stay. Be your little secret. My temples throbbed. This plot had gone completely off the rails. Serafina wasn't supposed to have this twisted obsession with me. She was supposed to hate me, then destroy me. Unless my arrival had changed something. Whatever, I said, deciding to feign indifference. Stay-go, I don't care, but I'm selling this penthouse. You can go wherever you want after that. I turned and stalked toward the bathroom, desperate for a moment to think. The second I shut the door, I heard a loud crash from the other room. I yanked the door open. Serafina had smashed the bedside lamp on the floor. What the hell are you doing? I snapped. She looked up at me, her eyes glinting with a dangerous light. Just testing your limits. She smiled sweetly. Looks like you really have changed. The old you would have had your hands around my throat for smashing a glass. My chest tightened. The original Ethan did have a violent streak, but all I wanted was to get away from this woman. Pack your things. I'll have you driven home in an hour, I said coldly, closing the bathroom door. I splashed cold water on my face, trying to force my thoughts into order. It was bad enough being stuck in the body of a villain, but now I was dealing with a psycho female lead who refused to follow the script. I had to find a way to get rid of her, or she was going to be the death of me. An hour later, I walked out of the bathroom fully dressed. Serafina was sitting on the edge of the bed, wearing a simple white dress. She looked pure, almost innocent, if you ignored the dark bruises on her wrists. I changed my mind, she said, swinging her legs. I'm not leaving. It's not up to you. I pulled out my phone. I'm calling a driver. She lunged, snatching the phone from my hand and sending me stumbling back against the wall. She wrapped her arms tight around my waist, pressing her face into my chest. Don't make me go. Her voice suddenly broke, laced with a sob. I have nothing left. Ethan, I only have you. I stood there, frozen. What new act was this? Serafina, I said, try to push her away gently. What the hell do you want? She looked up, her eyes glistening with actual tears. I want to stay with you. I'll do anything. Just don't throw me away. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. I took a deep breath. Listen, there are no feelings between us. Last night was a mistake. We should. A mistake, she cut me off, her eyes turning dark again. When you were on top of me, telling me you loved me, was that a lie? My scalp prickled. The original Ethan really would say disgusting things like that after his assaults. That was liar, she said, stepping back, her expression hardening. Men are all the same. She suddenly smiled. But that's okay. I'll make you fall in love with me again, Ethan. Just like before. Before? What before? In a novel. We never had a relationship. Think whatever you want. I gave up trying to reason with her and headed for the door. I'm going out. I expect you to be gone when I get back. I practically fled the penthouse. Once I was in my car, I let out a long breath and dialed a number. Dr. Miller, it's Ethan Crane. I need a psych consult. Now. 2 hours later, I walked out of the psychologist's office feeling even worse. Dr. Miller was the only person in this world I trusted, a character who, in the novel, eventually helped Serafina escape my clutches. But now, Mr. Crane, what you're describing has some elements of Stockholm Syndrome, but it doesn't quite fit, Dr. Miller had said, pushing his glasses up his nose. It seems this Ms. Vance had pre-existing psychological issues. Your imprisonment may have triggered some kind of attachment pattern. So what do? Ease her out of your life, slowly, and get her into professional therapy. Whatever you do, don't provoke her. Patients with her profile can be extremely volatile. Ease her out. Did Serafina sound like someone who could be eased out of anywhere? I drove around the city for hours, just killing time. At 9 that night, I finally returned to the penthouse. All the lights were on. I pushed open the door and was hit with the aroma of cooked food. Serafina emerged from the kitchen, wearing an apron, a sweet smile on her face. You're back. I made your favorite steak au poivre. I stood in the doorway, staring in disbelief at the perfectly set dining table. I did love steak, but how could she possibly know that? You. My throat felt tight. Why are you still here? Her smile faltered for a second before snapping back into place. I told you I wasn't leaving. Come on, eat before it gets cold. I noticed a Band-Aid on her left index finger, probably from a slip of the knife. This crazy woman. What was her game? I'm not hungry, I said, my face a coal mask. You eat. I'm going upstairs. I had just turned when I heard a loud crash of breaking ceramic. I spun around. Serafina was standing there, holding another plate in her hand. Why? Her voice trembled. I'm trying so hard. Why are you still like this? Serafina, I said, trying to stay calm. There's no future for us. Let's just let each other go. No future, she repeated softly. Then she started to laugh. Ethan, have you forgotten? You're the one who started this. You're the one who locked me up, who forced me. And now you say there's no future. She walked toward me, still holding the plate. You know, I could have escaped. The second day, when you were passed out drunk, I took your car keys. But I came back. Do you know why I came back? I took a step back, my eyes locked on the potential weapon in her hand. Because I realized. Her voice dropped to a soft whisper. I love watching you lose control. That's when you're the most real. She raised the plate. I thought she was going to throw it at me, but instead, she smashed it against her own forehead. What are you doing? I lunged forward and grabbed her wrist, but it was too late. Blood trickled from a cut on her temple, mixing with the tears streaming down her face. But she was smiling. See? You do care. I felt a chill run through my entire body. This woman, she was far more dangerous than the book ever described. I'm taking you to the hospital, I said through gritted teeth. No need. She easily pulled her arm free, wiping at the blood with the back of her hand. It's just a scratch. Ethan, we have all the time in the world. She turned and headed for the stairs, leaving a trail of blood droplets behind her. Halfway up, she looked back at me. By the way, which room am I sleeping in? The master or a guest room? I stared at the gash on her forehead and was hit with a terrible realization. I might never be able to get rid of her. Whichever you want, I finally said. She beamed. The master, then? You've already slept with me. What's one more night? Watching her disappear up the stairs, I sank onto the sofa in defeat. Where did the story go so wrong? Why had Serafina become this? I pulled out my phone and Googled Serafina Vance, trying to learn more about her. In the book, she was the sole daughter of the Vance family, but their corporation went bankrupt and her parents died. A news headline from 3 months ago caught my eye. Vance heiress in suicide attempt after a parent breakup. I clicked the link and saw a photo of Serafina being loaded into an ambulance. The article said she had slit her wrists on the day of her ex-boyfriend's wedding and was lucky to be found in time. Ex-boyfriend? There was no ex-boyfriend in the novel. I kept scrolling and froze on a smaller photo. It was Serafina with her ex. The man's face was blurred, but his build, the way he dressed. The world tilted. That was me. Or rather, the original Ethan Crane. So, in this version of reality, I had been Serafina's boyfriend. Then I dumped her to marry someone else, which led to her suicide attempt. And after all that, I had imprisoned her here. Shit, I threw my phone onto the couch. No wonder she was reacting this way. In her eyes, I was the scumbag who abandoned her, and now I was suddenly trying to kick her out again. I heard the shower running upstairs. Serafina must be washing up. On a strange impulse, I went upstairs. The door to the master bedroom was slightly ajar. I could see the silhouette of her body through the frosted glass of the shower door, and then I noticed something on the nightstand. I pushed the door open and walked in. It was a small prescription bottle. I picked it up. Antidepressants. The bathroom door suddenly opened. Serafina, wrapped in a towel, stepped out. She froze when she saw me, then smiled. Spying on your girlfriend in the shower? I held up the pill bottle. You've been taking these? Her smile vanished. None of your business. Serafina, I took a deep breath. We need to talk. Talk about what? She started drying her hair. About how you abandoned me. Or about how you've kept me locked in here for 3 days. I was speechless. What could I say? That I wasn't the real Ethan Crane? That I was from another dimension? She walked over and took the bottle from my hand. Don't pretend to care, Ethan. I know you think I'm damaged goods. That I'm crazy. She opened the bottle, shook out 2 pills, and swallowed them dry. But it doesn't matter. I'll make you love me again. Just like before. Her eyes terrified me. That wasn't love. It was obsession, madness, a desire to burn everything to the ground. Get some sleep, I said, backing away. We'll talk. Tomorrow. She grabbed my hand. Sleep with me. I'm afraid of the nightmares. No. I pulled my hand away. Good night, Serafina. I turned and left, and as I closed the door, I heard the sound of breaking glass from inside. She was smashing things again, but I couldn't deal with it anymore. I went to guest room, locked the door, and collapsed on the bed. My phone screen was still lit up with that old photo of them together. I stared at it for a long time. Then I noticed the date in the corner, 3 months ago. So, Serafina's suicide attempt was 3 months ago, and my imprisonment of her was just these last 3 days. What happened in between? I started searching again and finally found a clue in a gossip column. Crane Corporation CEO Ethan Crane collapses from heart attack on wedding day. Wedding canceled, fiancé leaves country. A heart attack? I put a hand on my chest. I felt fine, but the article included a picture, and it was definitely me being loaded into an ambulance. So the timeline was 3 months ago, I dumped Serafina to get married. She tried to kill herself. On the wedding day, I had a heart attack. After that, I kidnapped her and locked her in the penthouse. But why? Why would I imprison her after having a heart attack? Something else must have happened. As I was about to search more, I heard footsteps outside my door. Serafina, the footsteps stopped right outside. Then a soft knock. Ethan. Her voice was thick with tears. I had a nightmare. Can I please come in? I held my breath, saying nothing. Please. Her voice grew fainter. I am scared. I forced myself to stay silent. After a few minutes, the footsteps shuffled away. I let out a breath of relief, but then I heard glass shattering downstairs. I jumped out of bed and ran out of the room. Downstairs, the kitchen window was smashed, and Serafina was climbing out through the broken frame. Serafina! I sprinted and grabbed her by the ankle. What are you doing? She looked back at me, her face covered in tears. You don't want me, right? So I'm leaving. It's the middle of the night. I stopped, my eyes fixing on a fresh, bloody line on her right wrist. She'd cut herself again. Damn it. I yanked her back inside, scooped her up, and ran for the garage. Hang on. I'm taking you to the hospital. She gave a weak smile in my arms. You do care about me. Shut up. I roared, my heart hammering against my ribs. In the stark light of the garage, her face was deathly pale, blood dripping from her wrist onto the concrete floor. I put her in the passenger seat and slammed on the gas, peeling out onto the street. In the rearview mirror, I saw her slumped against the seat, her eyes half closed. Serafina, don't you dare fall asleep. Do you hear me? I slapped her cheek. Her eyes fluttered open. Ethan, if I die, will you remember me? You're not going to die. I ran a red light. Just hang on. Answer me. She insisted. Yes, I'll remember you. So don't you die. You hear me. She smiled, a faint, satisfied smile, and closed her eyes. My heart sank. Serafina, Serafina. The lights of the emergency room were blinding. I sat on a bench in the hallway, my hands sticky with Serafina's blood. I couldn't seem to get the feeling off me. Mr. Crane, a nurse approached me. The patient is stable. The cut wasn't deep. It was mainly blood loss and the effect of her medication. I let out a shaky breath. Can I see her? In a moment. The doctor is just finishing up. Would you like to? She gestured toward my clothes. I looked down. My white shirt was covered in large, dark red splotches. Where's the restroom? 10 minutes later, I had cleaned up as best I could and returned to the ER. The doctor was just stepping out from behind curtain. The patient is emotionally unstable, he said in a low voice. We've given her a sedative. Are you her friend? I said, the word tasting like a lie. The doctor gave me a long, knowing look. She has old scars on her wrists. Idę recommend a psychiatric referral. As the one who brought her in, I have to be clear, if something like this happens again, the hospital is obligated to report it to the police. My chest felt tight. I understand. You can see her now, but don't agitate her. I nodded and pulled back the curtain. Serafina was lying on the gurney, her left wrist wrapped in thick gauze, her right arm hooked up to an fore. The sedative seemed to be working. She looked calm, her face as pale as the sheet she was lying on. Are you satisfied? I asked, my voice hoarse as I pulled a chair to her bedside. She opened her eyes slightly, a weak smile playing on her lips. You're still here. What? You thought I'd just dump you at the hospital and leave? You used to, she whispered. I frowned. What are you talking about? She didn't answer, just stared at the ceiling. The first time I cut my wrists. You were at your wedding. The police called you. You told them. Let her die. Ice filled my veins. This was the original Ethan's sin, and now I was paying the price. Serafina, I started, struggling for words. About the past. She reached out with her good hand, her fingertips lightly touching my lips. Don't say you're sorry. It sounds so fake. I took her wrist. Listen to me. I'm not going to abandon you again. But you have to promise me you won't do this stupid shit anymore. Her eyes suddenly lit up. You care about me. I just don't want to be responsible for someone's death, I said, letting go of her and standing up. I'm going to handle the paperwork. You get some rest. As I turned to leave, she grabbed the hem of my jacket. Ethan, what now? My apartment key. It's in my purse, she said softly. Could you grab a few things for me? They're in the drawer by the front door. I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Fina. At the nurse's station, I collected Serafina's belongings. Inside her small purse were her phone, wallet, and keys. Tucked into her wallet was a photograph. I pulled it out. It was a picture of the original Ethan and Serafina. She was smiling, radiant, while he had an arm around her, his expression unbelievably tender. It didn't match the fragmented memories I had of him at all. In my head, he was all about conquest and cruelty. I flipped the photo over. On the back, in small script, it read, Happy 22nd, Sarah. Forever yours, eh? Forever. What a joke. It was 3 a.m. by the time I finished with the hospital administration. I stood outside, smoked a cigarette, and decided to go to Serafina's apartment. If I was going to solve this mess, I needed the whole truth. Her apartment was in a high-end building on the east side. In the elevator, I looked at my reflection in the mirrored wall. I had dark circles under my eyes. I'd been in this world for less than 24 hours, and I was already exhausted. My hand trembled slightly as I put the key in the lock. When I pushed the door open, I was met with a faint scent of jasmine. The apartment was immaculate. A few watercolor paintings hung on the living room wall, all signed Serafina Vance. I walked to the entryway table and opened a drawer. Inside was a single manila envelope. I opened it. It was full of medical reports and prescriptions. The diagnosis on the top page read, Major depressive disorder with suicidal ideation. I flipped through the documents. They spanned the last 2 years. So, ever since the original Ethan had abandoned her, Serafina had been sick. What the hell did you do to her? I muttered to myself, a heavy weight settling in my chest. I put the envelope down and found myself walking toward the bedroom. The nightstand was covered in pill bottles, antidepressants, tranquilizers, sleeping pills. Some were empty. On the vanity sat a black notebook. After a moment's hesitation, I opened it. It was her diary. March 15th, 2022. Ethan took me to see the cherry blossoms today. He said he'll marry me as soon as the company goes public. I believe him the way I believe the sun will rise tomorrow. May 20th, 2022. There's trouble with Dad's company. Ethan said he'll help, that I shouldn't worry. Why do I feel like he's hiding something from me? July 3rd, 2022. Dad was arrested. Ethan said it's just business, that I shouldn't get involved. I overheard him on the phone, saying the Van Cess are finished. My hand started to shake. The original Ethan was involved in her family's downfall. I kept reading. The handwriting grew more and more frantic. September 18th, 2022. Ethan broke up with me. He said it's over between us. I asked him why. He just said, you'll find out soon enough. October 1st, 2022. Dad jumped from his office building. Ethan came to the funeral. He didn't say a single word to me. October 5th, 2022. Mom overdosed on sleeping pills. Ethan's assistant sent flowers. The card just said, my condolences. October 20th, 2022. I saw the news today. Ethan is getting married to the daughter of the CEO of Linwood Corp. I finally understand. The diary had a few blank pages after that. Then, shocking red ink. Why, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, kill him, kill him, kill him. The last entry was dated January 1st of this year. Happy New Year, Ethan. I've decided to give you a present. Myself. Since you destroyed my world, I'm going to destroy yours. I slammed the diary shut, a cold sweat breaking out on my forehead. This wasn't a simple love story gone wrong. This was a calculated plot for revenge. Serafina had gotten close to the original Ethan to make him pay for destroying her family. But why the twisted obsession now? My phone buzzed. It was the hospital. Mr. Crane, the patient is awake and very agitated. She's demanding to see you. I'm on my way back. I hung up and took one last look around the apartment. On the vanity mirror, a sticky note was posted. It read, Remember, love is the most perfect revenge. A chill went down my spine. What the hell was Serafina planning? It was dawn when I got back to the hospital. A nurse told me Serafina had been moved to the psychiatric ward. I pushed open the door to her room and saw her sitting by the window. The morning sun cast a golden glow on her profile, making her look unreal, ethereal. You came back, she said, turning her head. Her smile was so sweet, you'd think last night's suicide attempt was just a bad dream. I held up the diary. I read this. Her smile didn't waver. Did you enjoy it? Serafina, I said, walking toward her. What is your game? Is this revenge or what? She asked, tilting her head like an innocent child. You hate me. Hate the original. Hate Ethan Crane for destroying your family. So why are you still in love with you? She laughed. Oh, Ethan, you're so naive. Hate and love are two sides of the same coin. She stood up and placed her fingers on my chest. I hate you for taking everything from me, and I love you for the pain you gave me. That pain is the only thing that makes me feel alive. I grabbed her hand. So, you got close to me for revenge? At first, she admitted freely, but then I realized the best way to torture you would be to make you fall in love with me, and then destroy that love. Then why did you try to kill myself? She pulled her hand back and looked out the window. Because on your wedding day, when you had that heart attack, and they said you might not make it, I suddenly realized if you died, where would all my hate go? Her voice was as light as a feather. More than wanting you dead, I wanted you to live in misery. I was speechless. Her logic was so twisted it was almost brilliant. And then you kidnapped me. She turned, a dangerous glint in her eye. No, you kidnapped me. After you got out of the hospital, you were like a different person. You broke into my apartment, said you couldn't let me out of your sight, and then you took me to that penthouse. My mind raced. So, the timeline was the original Ethan destroyed her family, dumped her, had a heart attack, and then completely changed, he imprisoned her. And that's when I arrived. In these last 3 days, you were like a madman, she whispered, saying I was yours, that you'd never let me go again. And then last night, you suddenly tried to kick me out. She narrowed her eyes. Why, Ethan? Why the sudden change? My throat was tight. She was terrifyingly perceptive. She leaned in, her lips almost brushing my ear. Don't explain. It's more fun this way. Like a game, to see who breaks first. I stepped back. This isn't a game, Serafina. You need professional help. I need you, she said stubbornly. Only you can fill this hole inside me. She pointed to her chest. I'll get you the best therapist. And then what? Lock me up in a mental hospital? She scoffed. Ethan, you've forgotten. We're the same. You have a black hole in your heart, too. Otherwise, why would you have locked me up? I couldn't argue with that. The original Ethan was a monster. But I wasn't. And how could I explain that to her? Get your things, I finally said. I'm taking you home. Home? She laughed. Where's my home? My father is dead. My mother is dead. Even my hate has become this complicated mess. Your apartment? That's just an empty shell. She cut me off. Ethan, did you know? Last night I could have cut deeper. But I stopped. Do you know why? I shook my head. Because I wanted to see. She reached up and caressed my face. Just how much this new version of you cared if I lived or died. I grabbed her wrist. Stop playing these games. Then play a different one with me. She moved closer, her lips almost touching mine. Like, pretending you still love me. I shoved her away. Enough. Serafina, there is no love between us. We just hurt each other. This ends now. Her expression turned to ice. Are you sure? I'm positive. Fina. She nodded and suddenly started unwrapping the gauze on her wrist. What are you doing? I lunged to stop her. Giving you what you want, she said with a sweet smile. The end. Stop it. I pinned her hands. I take it back. Just stop hurting yourself. She tilted her head, looking at me. Then, tell me, what is there between us? I scrambled for the right words. There's a complicated past, and a relationship that needs time to be figured out. Very corporate, Mr. Crane, she said mockingly, but she stopped trying to remove the bandage. Fina, I'll give you time, but don't make me wait too long. I let out a long breath and released her. I'm going to get your discharge papers. I stepped out of the room and leaned against the wall, my legs weak. This woman was a walking time bomb. When I got back, Serafina had changed into the clothes the nurse had found for her, scrubs and a jacket. She was sitting on the bed, swinging her legs like a little girl waiting for her parents. Ready to go? She asked, looking up at me. I nodded and handed her a paper bag. Your things. She took it, rummaged inside, and pulled out her phone. The moment she turned it on, it lit up with dozens of missed calls and texts. She cleared them all without looking and tossed the phone back in the bag. Don't you care who was trying to reach you? I asked. Besides you, who else would care if I lived or died? She said dismissively, then stood up. Let's go, Mr. Crane. In the hallway, a nurse handed me a sheet with instructions and a prescription. Make sure she takes her medication. Follow up in a week. Keep the wound dry. Serafina nodded obediently through it all, the model patient. I knew it was all an act. Your car is in the parking garage, the nurse said to me. Keep a close eye on her. Don't let. I know. I cut her off, not wanting to discuss Serafina's suicide attempt in front of her. Outside, the bright sunlight made me squint. Serafina took a deep breath. The taste of freedom. You're free to go whenever you want, I stressed. She smiled. Am I? Then why are you still holding my hands so tightly? I looked down and realized I'd been gripping her wrist as if I was afraid she'd bolt. I awkwardly let go, but she just looped her arm through mine. Relax, she whispered in my ear. At least in public. Try to look like you like me. In the parking garage, I buckled her seatbelt for her. I want ice cream, she said suddenly. What? Strawberry, she said, blinking up at me. They have it at the convenience store next to the hospital. I sighed, turned off the engine, and got out of the car. When I came back with the ice cream, I found her staring blankly at her phone. Here. Thanks. She took it and began to lick it slowly. Ethan, do you believe a person can just change? My heart seized. What do you mean? Like, she licked a drop of melted cream from the corner of her mouth. A cold-blooded monster suddenly growing a conscience? Maybe, I answered carefully. Then why do you think that happens? She asked, turning to face me, her gaze sharp. A change of heart? Or a change of soul? My fingers tightened on the steering wheel. What are you trying to say? Nothing, she said, turning back to her ice cream. Just curious? You've changed so much. I started the car, not saying another word. Did she know? Are you taking me back to my apartment? She asked. Yes. And then what? Then I'm going to the office. And then you're never going to see me again? She cut me off. I was silent for a moment. Serafina, we both need to cool off. I am cool, she said calmly. I'm coolly deciding that if you walk out of my apartment today, I'm going to jump off the balcony. I slammed on the brakes. The car screeched to a halt in the middle of the road. A car behind me laid on its horn, swerving around us as the driver flipped me off. Are you insane? I hissed, turning to glare at her. I've been for a long time, she said with a smile. You read my diary. You should know that. What the hell do you want from me? It's simple, she said, holding up one finger. 24 hours. Give me one day. No running, no hiding. Just stay with me. And in return, I promise I won't try to kill myself for a week. And after a week, we negotiate a new deal, she said, tilting her head. What is the great Mr. Crane too busy to spare me 24 hours? I started the car again, my mind racing. 24 hours in exchange for her safety for a week. It sounded like a good deal, but who knew what she would do in that time? Deal, I finally said, but on one condition. No hurting yourself, and no hurting me. Deal, she said, smiling like a child who had just been given candy. Back at her apartment, Serafina went straight to the bathroom. I need a shower. I stink of hospital. You're wound. I'll be careful, she said, closing the door before poking her head back out. No peeking, though I guess you've already seen everything. I sat on the living room couch, listening to the water run, every nerve on edge, terrified the sound would suddenly stop, followed by a thud. But nothing happened. 20 minutes later, she emerged in a bathrobe, her hair dripping wet. Dry my hair for me. She held out a hairdryer. I hesitated, then took it. She sat on the coffee table in front of me, her back to me. I turned on the dryer, running my fingers through her long, dark hair. It was soft as silk and smelled of jasmine. You used to do this for me all the time, she said suddenly. My hand paused. I did. Before my dad's company went under, she said softly. You were so good to me back then. So good I actually believed you loved me. I didn't know what to say, so I just kept drying her hair. Ethan, she said, turning her head so the warm air brushed against her cheek. If, and this is a big if you really were a different person now, do you think you could fall in love with me? I turned off the dryer. The silence in the room was deafening. Serafina, never mind. Don't answer, she said, standing up and taking the hairdryer from me. I'm going to get changed. Then we're going out to eat. I am Stadovin. She disappeared into the bedroom. I let out a long breath and checked my phone. My assistant at Crane Corp had sent me over a dozen emails asking where I was. I sent a quick reply, saying something had come up and I'd be in touch tomorrow. As I was about to put my phone away, a news alert popped up. Crane Corp stock plummets amidst rumors of CEO's mental instability. I opened it. It was a gossip piece mentioning that witnesses saw Ethan Crane yelling hysterically in a parking garage before forcibly dragging a woman into his car. The accompanying photo was blurry, but it was clearly me taking Serafina to the hospital last night. Shit, I muttered. This was a mess. What's wrong? Serafina asked, stepping out of the bedroom. She was wearing a pale blue dress and looked so fresh and lovely. You'd never guess she was the kind of person who would slit her wrists. Nothing. I locked my phone. Where do you want to eat? She tilted her head, thinking, how about that little Italian place near the university? Are you sure? I remembered that place from the original Ethan's memories. It was where they had their first date. Why not? A little nostalgia trip, she said, smiling as she took my arm. Let's go, Mr. Crane. The restaurant was loud and crowded. We found a table in a corner, and Serafina ordered without even looking at the menu, picking all of the original Ethan's favorites. You remember, I said, unable to stop myself. Of course I remember, she said, resting her chin on her hand as she looked at me. You love spicy food, but you can't handle it, so you always have to order 3 beers. The waiter brought our food. Serafina served me a piece of lasagna. You always said their lasagna was the best in Chicago. I stared at my plate, suddenly struck by a terrible thought. She remembered every single detail about the original Ethan, and I knew nothing. I was playing a part, and I was doing a terrible job of it. Why aren't you eating? She asked. Serafina, I said, putting down my fork. Let's stop pretending. You know I'm not. Not what? She asked, her eyes locked on mine. Not the same Ethan Crane I was before. She laughed. Of course I know that. The old Ethan would have never taken me to the hospital. He wouldn't have read my diary. And he certainly wouldn't have agreed to spend 24 hours with me. She leaned forward. So who are you? My throat was tight. If I told you I wasn't Ethan Crane at all, would you believe me? No, she said simply. But if you told me you were in a car accident and got amnesia, or that you have multiple personalities, I might believe that. Then let's go with that. Okay, she said brightly. Then eat your dinner, new Ethan. The rest of the meal was torture. Serafina acted like a normal girl, talking about things they did in college, complaining about her old job. But I could feel her testing me with every word, studying me with every glance. When we were paying, the waitress recognized us. Mr. Crane is Vance. It's been so long. Serafina smiled sweetly. Yes, it has. Are you two back together? The waitress asked. Serafina looked at me, then took my arm. Yes. And this time, he's never getting rid of me. It was dark when we left the restaurant. Serafina stretched. Where to next? Home. You need a rest. It's only 8 o'clock, she pouted. Let's go for a walk along the lakefront. Like we used to. I looked at the bandage on her wrist and hesitated. Just for a little while. The path along the lake was crowded. The cool night breeze was a welcome relief after the heat of the day. Serafina walked beside me, her hand brushing against mine every so often. Ethan, she said, stopping suddenly. Look, fireworks. I looked up and saw a burst of color explode over the lake. Serafina tilted her head back, the light of the fireworks reflecting in her eyes like stars. They're beautiful, she whispered. I looked at her profile, and for a moment, I felt a strange sense of loss. If there wasn't all this hate and pain between us, if we were just a normal couple. Ethan, she said, turning to me, her expression unreadable. Do you ever wonder if we were just normal people? If my dad was still alive, if you had never betrayed me, what we would be like? I didn't know how to answer. Never mind, she said, shaking her head and continuing down the path. There are no what-ifs. We walked in silence for a few more minutes. Then she said, I'm tired. Let's go home. Back at her apartment, Serafina got 2 beers from the fridge. Want one? You can't drink with your medication. Oh, right. She put the beer down and looked at me, tilting her head. Then, movie. Serafina, I sighed. Stop stalling. Go to bed. But our 24 hours aren't over yet, she said, glancing at the clock. We still have 6 hours. I'll watch you fall asleep. That counts. She stared at me for a few seconds, then smiled. Okay. In the bedroom, Serafina changed into her pajamas and got into bed. I sat in the chair beside the bed like a night nurse. Tell me a story, she said, her eyes wide. What kind of story? Anything. A fairy tale. I racked my brain and started telling her the story of the Little Prince. When I got to the part where the prince leaves his rose, Serafina interrupted me. Do you think the rose loved the prince? I guess so. Then why did she hurt him? Prick him with her thorns, say mean things to push him away? Because, I said, choosing my words carefully, sometimes we hurt the people we love because we don't know how to tell them we need them. She nodded thoughtfully. Keep going. I continued the story, my voice getting softer and softer. After a few minutes, her breathing became slow and even. She was asleep. I stood up quietly, planning to spend the night on the couch. As I turned to leave, I heard her whisper, Don't go. You're awake? I was asleep. Then I woke up, she said sleepily. The floor is more comfortable than the bed. I looked and saw she had moved to the far side of the king-sized bed, leaving half of it empty. Serafina, just for tonight, she said, her eyes opening, suddenly wide awake. I promise I won't do anything. I hesitated, then laid down on top of the covers as close to the edge of the bed as I could get. Thank you, she whispered, then turned her back to me. In the darkness, I listened to her breathe, the tension in my body slowly starting to unwind. Just as I was about to fall asleep, I felt her hand close around my wrist. Ethan, she whispered, her voice barely audible. If you're really not him, could you try to love me? My heart jumped. Before I could answer, her breathing became even again. This time, she was really asleep. I gently pulled my hand away and stared at the ceiling until morning. The first rays of sunlight slipped through a gap in the curtains. I opened my eyes and found Serafina lying on her side, facing me, just watching me. I had no idea how long she'd been like that. Good morning, she whispered, a small smile on her lips. I instinctively pulled back. The shirt I'd slept in was a wrinkled mess. Morning. What time is it? 7:20. She propped herself up on her elbow, the strap of her silk pajama top slipping down to reveal a faint scar on her collarbone. Our 24 hours are up in 40 minutes. I sat up, rubbing my temples. A night spent on high alert had left my neck as stiff as a board. Did you sleep okay? She nodded, reaching out as if to touch my face. I flinched away. Her hand froze in midair before she slowly retracted it. You talk in your sleep. My heart skipped a beat. What did I say? Couldn't make it out, she said, slipping out of bed. I'll make breakfast. I let out a long breath as she left the room. I grabbed my phone. Dozens of missed calls, all from the office. There was also a text from Dr. Miller. Saw the news. Call me if you need anything. The news? I opened my web browser. The top headline was, Crane Corp CEO suffers apparent mental breakdown, abducts ex-girlfriend. The article featured the blurry photo of me pulling Serafina into my car, along with a security camera still of me pacing in a hospital hallway. Idiots, I muttered. Coffee or tea? Serafina called from the kitchen. Coffee, thanks. I put my phone down and went to splash some water on my face. The man in the mirror was a wreck, with dark stubble and heavy bags under his eyes. I looked nothing like a CEO. When I came out, the table was set with fried eggs, toast, and fruit. Serafina was humming as she poured coffee, looking for all the world like a normal, happy girlfriend, not the woman who had threatened to jump off a balcony less than a day ago. Here, she handed me a mug, her fingers brushing against mine. I took it, careful to avoid her touch. Thanks. You're welcome. She sat down across from me. So, what's the plan for today? I have to go to the office. I saw her face darken and quickly added, to deal with this PR nightmare. You can. I'll come with you, she interrupted. I promise I'll be good. I won't cause any trouble. Serafina, the 24 hours aren't up yet, she said, glancing at the clock. 35 minutes left. I sighed. Fina, but you have to promise me, no matter what you see or hear, you'll stay calm. Deal, she said with a triumphant smile. After breakfast, I took a quick shower. When I came out, she was already dressed and had put on makeup, looking stunning. Well, she spun around in her blue dress. Will I embarrass you? You look beautiful, I said honestly. Whatever her mental state, Serafina was undeniably gorgeous. She beamed. Let's go, Mr. Crane. In the car, I called my assistant. Mr. Crane, you finally called. His voice was frantic. The board is losing their minds. The media is calling nonstop asking about your mental health. Schedule an emergency meeting for 10. I cut him off. All department heads and the PR team. And contact the major news outlets. I'm holding a press conference. A press conference? Sir, are you sure? Under the circumstances. Just do it. I hung up and glanced at Serafina. She was staring out the window, tapping her fingers on her knee. Nervous? I asked. Nope. She turned to me, her smile bright. Just curious how you're going to explain us. I'll tell the truth. Which truth? She narrowed her eyes. The we have a passionate, toxic relationship version, or the she's a crazy stalker version? Neither. I gripped the steering wheel. I'm going to tell them we had a misunderstanding that we are now resolving. So diplomatic, she said with a laugh. Fina, I've got plenty of time to wait for the real truth. The lobby of the Crane Corporation building was already swarming with reporters. I took the private garage entrance, leading Serafina to the executive elevator. Mr. Crane, my assistant said, rushing to meet us. He stopped short when he saw Serafina. And this is Ms. Vance. A friend, I said curtly. Find a lounge for her to wait in. No need, Serafina said, linking her arm through mine. I'll just sit in the corner of the conference room. I promise I won't say a word. My assistant looked at me, lost. I sighed. Let her. The conference room was already full and buzzing with conversation. The moment I walked in, it went dead silent. All eyes were on me and on Serafina's hand on my arm. Everyone, I said, taking my place at the head of the table. Regarding the recent news, there are a few things I need to clarify. For the next 2 hours, I navigated the corporate crisis. Serafina, true to her word, sat quietly in the corner, though every so often I'd feel her intense, unnerving gaze on me. Finally, I said to the executives, the press conference is at 3. I will personally clear up all misunderstandings. PR, draft a statement emphasizing that Ms. Vance and I are in a private relationship, and the abduction photos were simply a lover's quarrel. After the meeting, my assistant came over. Mr. Crane, Dr. Miller is waiting for you in your office. I nodded, then turned to Serafina. I need to meet with someone. Why don't you? I'll come with you, she said, standing up immediately. It's a private conversation. Then I'll wait outside the door, she said stubbornly. Defeated, I led her to my office. Dr. Miller was standing by the window. When he saw us walking together, he frowned. Ethan, he said, walking toward me. Are you all right? I'm Fina. I shook his hand. This is Serafina Vance. A pleasure, Dr. Miller said, then turned back to me. We need to talk. Alone. I looked at Serafina. She pouted. Fina, I'll be in the lounge. But don't be long. She gave my watch a meaningful look. Our time is almost up. The moment the door closed, Dr. Miller demanded, What are you doing? The media is saying you're having a breakdown, and you bring her into the office. It's complicated. Is she blackmailing you? He asked in a low voice. I can make a call. Have her committed? No. I cut him off. Don't do that. She needs help, but not that. Dr. Miller stared at me. Ethan, you've changed. The man I knew would never. The man you knew is dead, I blurted out. He blinked. What? I took a deep breath and decided to take a gamble. Dr. Miller was the only person in this world I could trust. Dr. Miller, if I told you, I'm not the real Ethan Crane, would you believe me? What are you talking about? Are you having a psychotic break? Dissociative identity disorder. I mean it literally. I'm from another world. I woke up in this body. The original Ethan is gone. He died during that heart attack. Dr. Miller's expression shifted from shock to concern. Ethan, the stress is clearly getting to you. I know how it sounds, I said with a humorless laugh. But I can prove it. The truth about his relationship with Serafina, how he destroyed her family. And I lowered my voice, the fact that you're in love with him. The color drained from Dr. Miller's face. How did you know about me? Because I inherited some of his memories, but not all of them. I need your help. Serafina, she hates him, and now she's projecting that hate onto me. I don't know what to do. The office door was suddenly pushed open. Serafina stood there, her face as white as a sheet. Ms. Vance, Dr. Miller said, standing up. We were talking. I heard everything, she whispered. You said, you're not Ethan. I froze, my mind blank. You said, he's dead. She took a shaky step forward. The man who destroyed my family. He's just dead. Serafina. I stood up, but I didn't know what to say. Liar. She grabbed a vase from my desk and hurled it to the floor. How could he just die? I haven't. Her voice broke, and she crumpled to the floor as if her bones had dissolved. Dr. Miller rushed to her side. She's fainted, he said, looking up at me. Should I call an ambulance? No. I knelt down and lifted her into my arms. Is there a room she can rest in? Dr. Miller led me to a small lounge next to my office. I laid Serafina on the couch. Her face was pale, her breathing shallow. She needs a sedative, Dr. Miller said. No, she's already on too much medication. I gently patted her cheek. Serafina, can you hear me? Her eyelids fluttered, then opened. The moment she saw me, tears welled up. He's dead, she whispered. My revenge. He's just gone. I'm so sorry. I took her hand. And you? She gripped my fingers, her nails digging into my skin. Who are you? Why did you lie to me? I didn't lie. I just didn't know how to explain. Explain what? She rasped. Explain why I'm in his body. Explain why I paused. Why I care if you live or die. Her grip loosened slightly. So, all this time, the one who was nice to me, that was you. Yes. Not him. No. She closed her eyes, tears slipping from the corners. I hate him. I know. But I hate him even more for dying so easily, she said, her eyes snapping open. Leaving me alone. Dr. Miller cleared his throat. I'll get you both some water. The moment he left, Serafina sat up and moved closer to me. Prove it. What? Prove you're not him, she said, staring into my eyes. Tell me something only you would know. I thought for a moment. The original Ethan kept a gun and the files on your family's bankruptcy in the safe in this office. He was planning to kill himself after the wedding because... Because why? Because he couldn't live with the guilt, I said, piecing together the fragmented memories. He approached you for business reasons, but then he actually fell in love with you. By the time he realized it, he had already destroyed everything you had. Serafina's face was a mask of disbelief. You're lying. I have no reason to lie. He also left you a letter. It's at the bottom of the safe. She shot to her feet, then swayed, dizzy. I caught her. Show me, she said, biting her lip. Now. I checked the time. The press conference was in 2 hours. Okay. When Dr. Miller returned with the water, we were already at the door. Where are you going? She needs to rest. We'll be right back, I said. And can you postpone the press conference to 4? The safe required the original Ethan's thumbprint and a code. I pressed my thumb to the scanner and typed in the numbers from my memory. Serafina's birthday. The safe clicked open. Inside, there was a handgun and several folders. I took out the envelope at the very bottom and handed it to Serafina. This is for you. Her hands were shaking so badly she couldn't open it. I took it from her, opened it, and pulled out the single sheet of paper inside. It contained only a few lines. Sarah, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. I know you'll never forgive me. I don't expect you to. I only hope my death brings you some peace. I loved you. I always did. Serafina stared at the letter, her expression shifting from shock to numbness. Then, without warning, she started to laugh, a wild, hysterical sound. That's hilarious, she gasped, tears streaming down her face. He loved me? He destroyed my life. And he says he loved me? Serafina, I tried to calm her. No, you know what's even more hilarious? She stopped laughing, her eyes turning to ice. That I almost believed a liar like you. This letter proves nothing. It's probably just another one of his manipulations. What about this? I took a small box out of the safe. Inside was a diamond ring. He was going to propose to you after your family's company stabilized. But things got out of control. She stared at the ring, her breathing growing ragged. No, that's impossible. And this, I said, pulling out a folder. This is his plan to clear your father's name. He was gathering evidence. Enough. She slapped the folder out of my hand, papers scattering across the floor. You think you can just make up these stories, and I'll believe you? You think I'll let you? Let this body get away with it. She suddenly snatched the gun from the safe and pointed it at my chest. Serafina. I took a step back. Calm down. I am calm, she said, her hand perfectly steady. If he isn't you, then killing you is the same as killing him, right? In a way, yes, I said, forcing myself to stay calm. But if you kill me, you'll go to prison. Is it worth it? It's worth it, she said, and pulled the trigger. Click. The gun was empty. She stared at it for a second, then frantically pulled the trigger again and again, the empty clicks echoing in the silent office. Why? Why did you have to lie about this too? She screamed, throwing the gun against the wall. I stepped forward and pulled her into an embrace, letting her beat her fists against my back. Let out, I whispered. You've been holding it in for too long. Her punches slowed, then stopped. She clung to my shirt, sobbing silently. I gently stroked her back until her tears subsided. I hate him, she whispered against my shoulder. I know, and I hate you. I know. But most of all, she said, looking up at me, her eyes red and swollen. I hate that I'm a little bit glad that you're not him. My heart clenched. I didn't know what to say. So, she said, wiping her tears, are you going to pay for his sins? No, I said, shaking my head. I'm not him. I'm not responsible for what he did. But I do want to, in my own way, help you move on. She was silent for a long time. Why? She finally asked. Because, I said, searching for the right words, I see your pain, but I also see how strong you are. You deserve a better life, not one trapped by hate. That sounds like pity. It's not pity, I said, looking her straight in the eye. It's respect. She stared at me, then a small smile played on her lips. You know, if you're faking all this, you're much better at it than he ever was. I'm not faking. Prove it. Ow. She stood on her toes and whispered in my ear, "Kiss me." I froze. "Serafina, that's not." "Not what?" "Not appropriate," she said, stepping back, her expression mocking. "Then tell me what is real. You say you're not him, that you want to help me. Why can't you even give me a kiss?" "Because I don't want to take advantage of you," I said, my voice rising. "You're not stable right now. I can't." "Can't what?" "Can't get your hands on me." She laughed. "Ethan, have you forgotten we've already slept together? That was him, not me. What's the difference?" "It's the same body," she shot back, stepping closer. "Or is it? You think I'm tainted? That a crazy woman isn't worthy?" I silenced her with a kiss. Her lips were cool and soft, and they tasted of salt and tears. I meant for it to be brief, but she grabbed the collar of my shirt and deepened it, her kiss desperate and hungry, as if she were trying to consume me whole. Finally, I was the one to pull away. "Is that enough?" She licked her lips, her eyes full of a strange mix of emotions. "No, but I'll believe you. For now." I let out a long breath and bent down to pick up the scattered papers. "We should go. The press conference." "Cancel it," she said. "What?" I said. "Cancel the press conference," she repeated, her voice suddenly calm. "I don't need you to announce our relationship to the world. I don't need you to explain anything. But the company released a statement," she said, walking to the door. "Now, take me home." Serafina was unnervingly quiet on the drive back. I kept glancing at her, worried she was about to snap again. "Eyes on the road," she said without turning her head. "I'm not going to try to kill myself. For now, I want to see how this ends." "How what ends?" "Us," she said, turning to look out the window. "I want to see how long you can pretend to be a good person." "I'm not pretending." "Then prove it to me," she whispered. "With time." When we got back to her apartment, I hesitated at the door. "Come in," she said, walking inside. "You said you wanted to help me. You can start by having dinner with me." For the next 2 weeks, I practically lived at Serafina's apartment. I'd go to the office during the day, then come back to her at night. She was a volatile mix of sweet and cruel, but the threats of self-harm subsided. On the Monday of the 3rd week, I had just gone to my office when the hospital called. "Mr. Crane, we have your physical results. There are some irregularities. Could you come in?" My heart sank. The original Ethan's heart condition. Dr. Miller's face was grim as he looked at the report. "It's not good. The myocardial ischemia is worse. You could have an attack at any time." "And I asked calmly. He nodded. "You need to be admitted immediately." "How long do I have?" "It's hard to say. A few months, maybe. Or it could be tomorrow." I had a laugh. Of all the bodies to get stuck in, I got one that was dying. "Don't tell Serafina," I said. "Ethan, Dr. Miller said, hesitating, about what you told me, about coming from another world. I did some research, and there's a theory that when a host body dies, a foreign consciousness might be able to return to its original world." I looked up at him. "You're saying, if I die, I might be able to go home?" "It's just a theory," he said carefully. "But if you're really not from this world, it might be worth a try." I thought about it. Going back to my old, normal life. It was tempting. But what about Serafina? "I need to think," I finally said. When I got back to the apartment, she was cooking. She had been surprisingly cooperative with her therapy and had even started to learn to cook. "You're back," she said, carrying 2 plates of pasta to the table. "Try my latest creation." I forced a smile and took a bite. "It's good." "Liar," she said with a frown. "It's too salty, isn't it?" "A little, but it's a big improvement." She suddenly put down her fork. "You're acting weird." "What happened?" "Nothing. Just work." "You're lying," she said, her eyes narrowing. "It was your physical, wasn't it? Is the news bad?" "You still here." "Shocked." "How did you know?" "I saw the appointment confirmation in your email," she admitted. "So, how bad is it?" I hesitated, then decided to tell her the truth. I could drop dead at any moment. Her face went pale, but she quickly composed herself. "Oh, so you're going to the hospital?" "I haven't decided yet." "Decided what?" "Whether to get treatment or not." "Whether to stay here and get treatment," I said, taking a deep breath, "or let go and take a chance on going back to my old world after I die." She shot to her feet, her chair screeching against the floor. "You're leaving?" "You're going to leave me." "I'm just considering my options." "Get out." She threw her plate on the floor. "Get out right now. You're just going to abandon me anyway. You might as well do it now." "Serafina." I grabbed her wrist. "Let me finish." "I don't want to hear it." She struggled against my grip. "You're all the same. You say you'll stay, but in the end, you all leave." "What if I stay?" I said, my voice rising. "What if I give up my chance to go home and I stay here with you?" Will you promise me you'll get better? Will you promise me you'll live? She stared at me, stunned. What? What did you say? I said. I let go of her and rubbed my tired eyes. I need a reason to stay. She was silent for a long time. If I promise not to hurt myself and to go to therapy, you'll stay, she whispered. You promise? You really promise? She bit her lip, then nodded. I promise. Then I promise too, I said, holding out my hand. Deal. She stared at my hand but didn't take it. You won't regret it? Giving up your home for a crazy woman? You're not a crazy woman, I said softly. You're just hurt, and I have a chance to help you heal. Her eyes filled with tears. Why? Why are you being so nice to me? Because, I said with a small smile, someone asked me to love you. Who? The original Ethan Crane. Before he was completely gone, I saw his last memories. His biggest regret was hurting you. The tears finally fell. Liar. I'm not lying this time, I said, gently wiping a tear from her cheek. So, deal. She finally took my hand. Deal. That night, I was jolted awake by a searing pain in my chest, like a knife being twisted into my heart. I tried to move, but I was paralyzed. Ethan, a voice echoed in my head. Who's there? I thought. It's me. And you, the voice said, faint but clear. I'm leaving. You're disappearing? Yes. Thank you for taking care of her. Goodbye, other me. I'm not doing it for you. I know, the voice said, and I could feel it smiling. That's why I can trust you with her. For me, love her. I will. The pain vanished. I shot upright, gasping for air. A scream came from the next room. I ran in and found Serafina huddled in a corner, shaking. Serafina, I said, holding her. What's wrong? I had a dream about him, she sobbed, clutching my shirt. He said he was leaving and that I should be with the other him. My heart pounded. The other me? She nodded, her tears soaking my shirt. He said, you're the one who can really love me. I held her tight. It's okay. He's gone. Really? Yes. It's just us now. She looked up at me. You're really not going to leave? Never, I said and kissed her forehead. I promise. The next day, I checked into the hospital. Serafina insisted on staying with me, even scheduling her therapy sessions in my room. Dual treatment, she said proudly. We'll see who gets better first. I smiled and shook my head. You're ridiculous. I am not, she said, tucking my blanket in. It's called healthy competition. 3 weeks into my hospital stay, my condition took a turn for the worse. In the middle of the night, the heart monitor started blaring. Ethan, Serafina yelled, hitting the call button. Hang on, the doctors are coming. I looked at her terrified face and tried to tell her it would be okay, but I couldn't speak. My vision started to blur. The last thing I saw was her, clutching my hand, tears streaming down her face. Don't go, she sobbed. Please. Then, everything went black. I was floating in nothingness. A light appeared before me. In the light was a figure, the other Ethan. It's time to choose, he said. Stay or go back. Don't answer yet, he said with a smile. Watch this. He waved his hand, and an image appeared. Serafina, sitting by my hospital bed, holding my hand and weeping. She needs you, he said. And I owe her too much. But my old world. A version of you will go back, he said. But the Ethan Crane of this world will truly die. I was silent. This meant I would be here forever. I would have to give up everything I had ever known. Decide, he said, his form starting to fade. For me, love her. I opened my eyes. The inside of an oxygen mask fogged up with my breath. Serafina was asleep in the chair next to my bed, tear tracks on her cheeks. I moved my fingers. She was instantly awake. Her eyes went wide. You're alive. Yeah, I said, my voice weak. Couldn't leave you. She threw her arms around me, sobbing like a child. I thought you were gone. I thought. Shoo, I said, stroking her hair. I made you a promise, remember? I remember, she said, looking up at me, her eyes red and swollen. Are you still going back? No, I said softly. You're not there. Fresh tears welled up in her eyes, but this time they were tears of joy. A year later, Serafina and I stood on a stage at the opening ceremony for the New Day Mental Health Foundation. She wore a bracelet I had given her, covering the scars on her wrist. Nervous? I whispered. A little, she said, squeezing my hand. But when I think about how many people we can help, I'm not scared. I smiled. Over the last year, she had been devoted to her therapy and was doing much better. And after my heart surgery, I had made a full recovery. Mr. Crane, a reporter said, what was your inspiration for starting this foundation? I looked at Serafina. She nodded at me. To help people who, like us, were once lost, I said. Pain doesn't have to be a solitary experience. After the darkness, there's always a new day. Serafina smiled and added, and sometimes, all you need is for someone to love you through the night. The reporter scribbled down her words, probably not understanding their full meaning. But I did. Just like I understood, in that hospital room, the real reason I chose to stay. It wasn't because of a promise to a ghost. It wasn't out of pity or a sense of responsibility. It was because beneath all the pain and madness, I had seen the light in her soul. Broken but beautiful, scarred but still desperate for love. Just like she said, love is the most perfect revenge. And our love had finally conquered hate, healing us both. Let's go, I said after the ceremony, taking her hand. Let's go home. Yes, home, she said, leaning her head on my shoulder. The sun cast our long shadows behind us, and they melted together until you couldn't tell where one began and the other ended.